You know what? We have so much fun doing the show. We want you to come in and join us for all the action. There's always a seat that we save for you. So bring your friends, your family, your church, bring your youth group, bring your coworkers, your neighbors, whatever the case may be. We just love to see you. All you have to do is stop by DelmarvaLife.com, click on the show tab, or you can call that number there on your screen, 443-880-9116.
Well, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention reports 50% of adult Americans, half of us, have gum disease, and many of us don't even know it. Gum disease has been linked to heart disease and some cancer, so it's important to recognize a potential problem. Dr. Debra Welsh is a periodontist in Salisbury who also happens to be taking part in the Mission of Mercy event that we spoke of earlier in the show. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. Now, first of all, you're a periodontist. Is that the same as a dentist?
No, it's actually a specialist. We've gone to school a few more years just to specialize in the treatment of gum disease, and which is the supporting structures of the teeth.
And that's important because so many Americans have gum disease. Why is that?
It's a bacterial infection, and we all have the bacteria. People don't realize that they actually have the disease. If they're not effective in cleaning their mouths, then you can see on the diagram there that shows the breakdown that occurs as a result of the bacterial infection, and it is the #1 leading cause of tooth loss. And
oh my goodness!
People aren't aware of having it, and it's usually a silent thing. There's rarely pain involved.
So people might be walking around with it and don't even know they have it.
Exactly.
So how do you develop it? You say it's a bacteria. Bacteria
colonizes on the tooth on a regular basis, and if it's not effectively brushed off or flossed off, you hear brushing and flossing all the time. If it's not effectively removed, then your body reacts to it, just like any infection that you might have in a leg, like a splinter. You get a little red halo around it. The same thing happens in the mouth, and it reacts to that bacterial mass, and you get the inflammatory disease, and not painful. And
it's not painful, but what are some of the symptoms?
People would notice red puffiness in the gums. They might see bleeding when they brush, floss, bleeding when they eat. Might see blood on their pillow in the morning, shifting of teeth, oral odors, bad breath. That's one of the #1 causes or things that people can recognize in themselves but don't come in for that reason.
Right, the bad breath.
Yeah, and it's the #1 cause of that.
And people are afraid to admit to it.
Yeah,
even to you.
Yeah, but they are. They are. In fact, they're happier when it's taken care of, and then they admit that that was one of the big issues.
The good news is gum disease is treatable.
Absolutely.
And how do you do that?
First, having it diagnosed, and this in my office now, I've introduced the dental laser, and this shows how it's being treated in our office now. The laser selectively removes the diseased tissue and kills the bacteria that lines the pocket around the tooth, and the bacterial masses are removed, and then the laser is used to help stimulate new bone growth around the tooth and healthier environment once again. So
now this is not surgery, so there's no cutting or there's no stitches or anything.
It's a much more patient-friendly treatment, and that's why I added it to my practice, because people were afraid to go on with surgical care, and now they've got this that's much more patient-friendly, and it eliminates the fear factor.
Now you have some x-rays that show a tooth before and after. What's this one?
In this picture you can see sort of the dark shadow around that tooth right in the center. And that's where there was no bone before we treated it with the laser. And then afterwards, about 6 months later, we took a post-op x-ray, and the bone is back. So we've actually regenerated bone that had been lost to the disease process.
All right, so we don't have to go through that.
Exactly. This is another one that shows that right between those two teeth, the dark area is where bone's been lost. And there you can see the light-colored area between the two molar teeth is where bone has been regenerated. So in the past, that was a fairly expensive procedure because we had to actually use bone grafting materials and that kind of thing.
How can we prevent this?
It can be prevented by regular daily cleaning between the teeth and brushing, and get regular exams. I think the biggest thing is people are afraid. They think it's going to be a painful process, and if they just recognize it in themselves and can go and have the exam done with their dentist, with the periodontist, with the hygienist in the chair when they're having their teeth cleaned, ask how how healthy are their gums.
All right.
Using a power brush, such as this one here, and this actually is
That's the
laser that we
Yeah,
actually
very
use for
small.
the treatment.
All
that
right,
you
Dr.
see.
Welsh, thank you so much. Very
a
important
pleasure being here.
information.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks very much.
Still to come on Delmarva Life, it's an event like no other. We'll learn more about the Rock and Roll Revival, local talent showcasing music from decades past, and you're invited. Plus, we welcome back Alex and Shiloh to the Delmarva Life stage. We'll get a full performance next.
Already standing on the ground.